Hello. In this lecture, we'll study some statistical procedures to find out differentially expressed genes from a two-channel microarray experiment. So we now have the normalized data, and we'll discuss some inference procedures to achieve the aim of finding out the differentially expressed genes. So this is our microarray data. We have the gene expression values. We have samples coming from two types of conditions and a variety of genes. So rows corresponds to gene, columns correspond to channels, and let's see some inference procedures that are able to identify us differentially expressed genes. So to achieve this aim of identifying a small set of differentially expressed genes among thousands of genes, we use various exploratory and confirmatory data analysis tools. We are going to discuss some inference procedures, for example, t-test, one-way ANOVA, Wilcoxon signed rank test, Wilcoxon rank sum test, Kruskal-Wallis test, and so on. We also use multivariate analysis tools, principal component analysis, cluster analysis, and some classification tools also. Logistic regression analysis tools can also come in handy, and of course some computer oriented techniques, artificial neural networks, data mining tools, support vector machines, and so on. These are our statistical tools. So using a kit of statistical tools, we identify a small set of differentially expressed genes from thousands of genes, and these are further investigated by biological tools such as Northern blot technique or quantitative real-time PCR. So again I will go with a case study. Here is a two-channel microarray experiment. Aim was to compare the genome of ovarian tumor cell and normal tumor cell. We had 6 samples from in each of this group. So mRNA was extracted from the cells of these two types of cells and was simultaneously hybridized on 6 arrays. So it's a two-channel microarray experiment. Red dye was used for normal sample and green was used for tumor sample. We had a data on 34,742 genes and on 6 arrays. We use lowest normalization to take care of dye bias, and we use quantile normalization to reduce the impact of across array variation. So we have the normalized data now. Okay, aim is to identify the genes with different profiles in two types of cells. It basically amounts to comparing the family of hypotheses. The hypothesis is that the genome in normal cells is same as genome in tumor cells. So that's our so-called null hypothesis. That is the genome is determined by all these 34,000 genes. So comparing genome is essentially comparing these 34,000 genes simultaneously. So what we do is we go on testing the comparison of genome by each gene separately, because that's the only way we have to do. Okay, what are those genes? So our null hypothesis for every gene is the average expression value of gene number 1, say, is same in normal cell and in a tumor cell. That's our null hypothesis. We take alternative always as a two-sided hypothesis, because we don't have any prior knowledge about the gene expression values in the tumor and normal cells. So our null hypothesis is mu1 equal to mu2. Alternative hypothesis is mu1 is not equal to mu2, where mu1 stands for the gene expression value in the whole population corresponding to normal cell and mu2 corresponding to the tumor cell, right? So our aim of identifying differentially expressed gene is same as aim of identifying those genes for which hypothesis of equality of means is rejected on the basis of given data. And then how to find out this such genes is our task. So look at, for each gene we have data on log R and log G values coming from each array. So the data is on paired form. The same spot gives us the expression values under two conditions. So each spot on each array gives us a pair of observations, and therefore the test that immediately comes to our mind is pair t-test. But of course one has to see whether the assumptions underlying the pair t-test are satisfied or not. So we begin with verifying the conditions of pair t-test. If these are satisfied, we apply pair t-test. If they are not satisfied, we go for a corresponding non-parametric test. So if the assumption that log R and log G values are coming from bivariate normal is satisfied, we can go for pair t-test, which amounts to verifying whether log R minus log G values have a normal distribution. So what we do is we test normality of each of these genes, for each of these genes, using 6 observations on this difference M data, log R minus log G data. So what we do is we apply Shapiro-Wilk test, any test of normalities, for example say Shapiro-Wilk test on all these 34,740 genes simultaneously. I will show you some of the R commands where this can be done in a single loop. Although it seems to be a huge amount of data, with the help of software this can be easily implemented. So we apply test of normality for all these genes. There are 34,742 genes. Of course here the number of observations for each gene is same. The data is large in a sense, number of genes is large, number of variables is large, but the information content per gene is small. It's only 6. That always happens with the microarray data. But still we can proceed with some test procedures and work on that. So we applied Shapiro-Wilk test for all 34,000 genes. What we noticed is the normality was accepted for this data for 32,115 genes, and then on all these genes we applied pair t-test. Now this out of 34,742 genes, normality is accepted for 32,115 genes. This has a nice interpretation. I mean, this comes from the fact that these M values, which are log R minus log G values, these are the summary values coming from each spot. Okay, each spot is essentially a summary observation. It is median or trimmed mean of more than 100 observations, and a famous central limit theorem from statistics essentially justifies the normality of all this. So what I have empirically observed that for most of the genes the normality gets accepted, and the credit of course that goes to the central limit, justification of that goes to the central limit theorem. Well, let's proceed for the inference procedure. So if the normality is accepted for these M values, we can definitely go for a pair t-test. So we apply the pair t-test on all these 32,000 genes simultaneously. For the genes for which normality is rejected, we cannot go for pair t-test, so we go for a corresponding non-parametric test, and it is the Wilcoxon sign rank test. What we notice for this data that at 1% only 0 genes were rejected. The hypothesis of equality was rejected only for 0 genes, and at 5% the hypothesis of equality was rejected for 943 genes. So 943 genes have a significantly different profile under two conditions. That was the conclusion from Wilcoxon sign rank test. What is the result for the parity test? Out of this 32,115 parity test, at 1% the equality of hypothesis was rejected for 7,673 genes. At 5% the number was 13,000 and so on. For this Wilcoxon sign rank test, we investigated it further, not just the p-values and significance, but there were 439 genes having zero value. For this sample size of 6, the minimum value for the Wilcoxon sign rank test statistics is 0 and the maximum value is 21. And this minimum value of test statistics and maximum value of test statistics have the interpretation. Zero value means all these m differences are negative for 6 observations. There are no ranks with positive, and therefore the sum of the ranks with positive ranks comes out to be 0. What this means is our m difference is log r minus log g. R is corresponding to normal sample, g is corresponding to tumor sample. So on all 6 arrays for these 439 genes, normal log r values were smaller than log g values. That's why the test statistics value comes out to be 0. So all these 439 genes are upregulated in tumor cells. And another 540 genes have the value of the test statistics to be 21, which is the maximum value. What it means is that on all 6 arrays, log r values are larger than log g values. And from that our conclusion is all these genes are upregulated in normal cell. Here also see the proportion of up and down regulated gene. When I said upregulated in tumor, it means they are down regulated in normal cell. So more or less the proportion is same, 439 and 504. So that is again confirming to our assumption that proportions of up and down regulated genes is more or less same. Okay. So this gives you certain information. So maybe we'll investigate this 439 and this 540 genes in more details. Okay. So the summary of this Wilcoxon sign rank test is like this. These are top 5 genes. I'm saying top 5 or 6 genes. I'm saying it's top because the p-values are the smallest values. The statistics values are also the extreme values. The statistics value 0 indicates that they are expressed at a low level in normal cells and at a high level in tumor cells, which is indicated by its profile as minus plus. Minus indicates they are down-regulated in condition 1, that is normal sample, and plus indicates that they are upregulated in tumor sample. Okay, so that 0 value of the test statistics along with the p-values helps us to write down the profile of the gene. So these are the genes which are differentially expressed in 2 conditions. Remaining 2 genes where the values are 21 indicates that they are upregulated in normal cells and downregulated in the condition in the tumor cells. Okay. And these are the identities of the gene. So this is a type of data that this is a type of report that we give to the biologist where these genes are further investigated. So this is a summary of Wilcoxon sign rank test for few genes. Such summary can be given for all differentially expressed genes. This is a summary of pair T test. Look at this. The p-values are very low. It's almost 0, 10 raised to minus 8, 10 raised to minus 7. So these are significantly differentially expressed genes. We know the identities of genes also. We know which genes are differentially expressed. Look at the values of the test statistics now. For first two ranked genes, the values are negative. What it means is that your average values of log R are less in condition 1. Average log R values are less than average log G values from your sample. It indicates that this gene is expressed at low level in normal sample and at a higher level in the tumor sample. So negative sign indicates the profile of the gene to be minus plus, indicating it is down-regulated in normal sample but up-regulated in the tumor sample. The positive value of test statistics gives the opposite picture. What it means that log R values on the average are higher than the log G values. So this gene with this identity is expressed at a high level in normal condition but at a low level in a tumor condition. Okay, same picture for the remaining two genes. So this is how one can give the report to the researchers, biologists about the differentially expressed genes. Now, there are a number of issues. What are the issues? What we notice is the number of differentially expressed genes is 13,000 according to PER-T-test, 943 according to the Wilcoxon test. When we know that, biologically we know that out of these 34,000, very few genes, maybe 100 or 200 genes have a different profile, and our statistical analysis inference procedures tells that the number of differentially expressed genes is 13,000, 9,000, so almost 22,000. So one has to take a pause and see whether something is wrong. Yes, there is some problem. What is that? That is known as multiplicity issue. Why it arises? Our aim is to compare the genomes of two cells. To compare the genomes of two cells, the only way that we have is to compare each and every gene. For that, we are doing all the tests simultaneously at a certain level. Okay, so we are carrying out 32,115 PER-T tests simultaneously, 2,627 Wilcoxon rank tests simultaneously. And because of these simultaneous inference procedures, what happens is the number of false positives increases a lot. Okay, this happens because we are carrying out the test simultaneously. So, if your aim is to compare the two genomes, two families of hypotheses, why restrict to the level of significance for each test separately? You should be able to restrict what is known as a family-wise error rate. Okay? We carry out each test at a certain level, say 1% or 5%. It was, say, level alpha for each test. And when we carry out it for each test and the number of tests is very large, overall level of entire family becomes very, very large. It becomes of the type 1 minus 1 minus alpha raised to g, where g is the number of members in the family. Alpha is usually 0.01, 0.05, so 1 minus alpha is 0.95. G is of the dimension 32,000, so that fraction raised to g is almost 0, so the family-wise error rate is almost 1. So that's the problem when we carry out these many tests simultaneously. Okay? So because of this, expected proportions of false rejections, always known as false positives, is alpha into g. Alpha is the probability of type 1 error, probability of making false positive, rejecting the hypothesis when in fact it is true. Alpha into g is the expected proportions of false positives. Alpha is small but g is very large, So alpha into G becomes a large number. So with this, when we carry out these many tests simultaneously, the proportion of false positives, the number of false positives increases tremendously. What it means? Out of 32,115 genes, when we say that 13,000 are rejected, so when we are rejecting this hypothesis, in fact, when the hypothesis of equality of means is true. So that's our wrong decisions. So we are making many wrong decisions. So we have to take care of that. Okay. How to do that? This problem arises because we are carrying out number of tests. So number of tests increases, expected number of false positives increases. So we have to take care of that. We have to adjust something for this simultaneous inference procedures or multiplicity of these tests. There are many methods to resolve. What we have to do is we did not concentrate on per comparison, controlling per comparison error rate, but we must control what is known as family-wise error rate. Our aim is to compare two families of hypothesis. And this family-wise error rate is defined as probability of at least one false positive. So one has to, in fact, control that 1 minus 1 minus alpha raised to G. How to do that? There are procedures which help us to calculate what are known as adjusted p-values. Bonferroni and Siddak adjustments are very well known in literature. There are others as well. So what is this Bonferroni adjusted p-values? It's very conservative, of course. It is formula is p-value that you give by the test, get by the test into G. Sometimes this comes out to be larger than 1. Therefore, if it is larger than 1, set it to 1. So this is one way of finding out the adjusted p-value. Siddak adjustment is 1 minus p-value raised to G. So try to control this p-value. Okay. So again, this can be quickly found out. And then this is a picture for first 5 ranked genes for the parity test. Now the p-values in the before adjustment, the p-values were almost 0, 10 raised to minus 8 of that dimension of that order. After adjustment, the p-values are inflated, really inflated. It's 0.0068 from 10 raised to minus 6 and so on. The picture of Bonferroni and Siddak adjustment is almost the same. That is usually the picture. So this is a summary of applying the corrections and not applying. Okay. So we applied this parity test on 32,115 hypothesis to test this hypothesis. What is the result? That 7,673 genes are differentially expressed. So hypothesis is rejected for these many genes. Out of that, 3,281 are upregulated in tumor, 4,392 are downregulated in tumor. For 5%, the results are 13,000 differentially expressed. Out of that, again 6,409 upregulated in tumor, 7,432 are downregulated in tumor. Again, here also note that more or less their proportions are same, more or less. When we apply Bonferroni adjustment and Siddak adjustment, see the numbers reduce a lot. With the Bonferroni adjustment, only 8 genes are differentially expressed at 1%. There has to be 0.05 here. So with the Bonferroni adjustment at 5%, the number of differentially expressed genes is 42. With the Siddak adjustments, the number are 8 and 44. So, what's the problem? I mean, what is, these numbers are quite high. With the adjustment, these are quite low. So the drawback is when we apply this Bonferroni and Sidak adjustment, we do other type of mistake. What are those? There are too many false negatives. Okay. See, out of 32,000 tests, we are rejecting only 42 hypotheses and rejecting only 44 hypotheses. All other are accepted. So when we accept the hypothesis, we may be doing some wrong decisions. We are accepting the hypothesis of equality of means, in fact, when it is not true. So when we don't apply any multiplicity, we are making one type of error. The proportion of number of false positives is very high. When we apply this multiplicity correction, number of false negatives is high. So one has to be very cautious about this. With the adjustment, without adjustment, too many false positive. With adjusted p-value adjustment, too many false negatives. So there is the new tool. Instead of controlling per comparison error rate, which we do when we don't apply multiplicity adjustment, instead of controlling family-wise error rate, which we do when we go for adjusted p-values, control what is known as a false discovery rate. This false discovery rate is a new, not new, but recently new. This is a new concept, and there is a seminal paper by Benjamin and Hochberg in 1996. So what is this false discovery rate? It's the expected proportions of false positives among positives. So it's always better to control that. Per comparison error rate is expected proportions of false positives among all the tests that you carry out. False discovery rate is the expected proportions of false positives among all positives. So it's better to control that. And then there are various methods for it. I will not go into all the details for that. But what is found is the results when we control false discovery rate is intermediate to these two types, without applying multiplicity and with applying multiplicity. The results corresponding to false discovery rate are always intermediate. But then again, decision to apply these adjustments depends on the resources in terms of time and money for applications of biological tools such as RT-PCR. What's the scenario? See, you have data on thousands of genes. It's known that all these thousands of genes don't have the differential expression in these two conditions, but only handful of genes have a differential expression, and aim is to select those handful of genes. So we apply a kit of statistical tools and apply those and obtain those differential expressed genes. But while applying these statistical tools, we commit two types of errors. If we don't apply multiplicity adjustment, number of false positives is high. If you apply, number of false negatives is high. So what is done actually in practice is we generally select what we call as the top genes. So out of the differentially expressed genes, we select top, say, 100 genes. What do we mean by top? Top according to the p-value. Smaller the p-value, it is most significantly differentially expressed gene. So we select such top 100 or 200 genes. And then we hand over this data to the biologist. If they have enough resources to carry out real-time PCR for 200 genes, they analyze for 200 genes. If the resources are short, they analyze this top 100 genes. It's not possible for them to apply this RT-PCR technique on all thousands of genes. So this is a via media, which is usually adopted in practice. So we select some top genes, top according to p-values, and these are further investigated by the biologist. So the role of statistics is to identify a set of differentially expressed genes from thousands of genes which are printed, which are immobilized on that array. And then use inference tools. So we know our limitations. When we apply inference procedures simultaneously, we'll end up in one problem. We have a solution for that, but that solution again takes us to another extreme. So this is sort of via media. So this set of genes which we declare as the most differentially expressed genes according to our criteria need to be validated by biological tools such as RT-PCR. Okay. So here is again, so when I say that I am carrying out 34,000 tests simultaneously, 32,000 tests simultaneously and identifying the genes, this can be done in a simple way using a simple loops from R. So here is a set of commands for comparative inference. Of course, we use lowest and quantile normalized data for applying appropriate test procedure. So first step in any microarray data analysis is log transformation, and then second is normalization application. So reduce the impact of noise as far as possible and apply test procedures on noise-free data. So suppose this B1, B3, B5, B7, B9, B11 are columns of normalized expression values for channel 1, that is for normal cells. B2, B4 are corresponding to tumor cells. So these are my so-called M values on 6 arrays, normalized M values. We construct a matrix of these normalized differences, and then this is a loop. This M is the number of tests that you have to carry out. Stat PV are the dummy vectors where we are going to store the values of test statistics and P values. And Shapiro.test is a command. So this is a loop for Shapiro.test which is applied on all these 34,000 tests simultaneously. Okay, and then we have a data frame corresponding to stat and PV values, and we order this entire data frame according to the P values. Smaller the P values, they are at the top. So data frame is ordered according to the increasing values of P values. Smaller P value comes at the top because our aim is to find out most differentially expressed values. So smaller P value is the gene which we are interested in. So this length command and which command help us to find out how many are differentially expressed and so on. Look at this GS. GS is a vector which stores the genes, labels or gene identities, in some sense identities or row numbers, let me say, for which the normality is rejected. Okay, because it's ordered according to top P values. W2 gives me the number of genes for which normality is rejected at 5% level of significance. So I extract that MAP1 is a matrix extracted from MFE matrix of gene expression values for which normality is rejected. So it's a data on genes for which normality is rejected. So we apply a non-parametric test on that, and the appropriate non-parametric test for this setup is a Wilcoxon signed rank test. So again we have a loop for that. Here stat, PV, BPV, SPV. These are the dummy vector to store the values of the statistics, P values, Bonferroni adjusted P values, Sidak adjusted P values. All can be done in one loop. So this is a loop. And the main command is Wilcox.test on the ith row of my data matrix. So all these 2000 tests are carried out simultaneously, and this Y3 data frame gives us the values of statistics, P value, Bonferroni adjusted value, and also the gene identities on which we have carried out the test. Again, this data frame is ordered according to the p-values, smaller p-values at the top, because those are the most differentially expressed values. Okay? And then you can extract some of the genes to present this one. Alright, now what I am going to do is that MFE1 is the gene expression data matrix for which normality is rejected. For rest of the genes, I want to apply my parity test. So what we do is, U is a vector which is a vector from 1 to 34,742. So it's the data corresponding to all 34,000 genes. From that we delete those row numbers for which normality is rejected, and then MFE2 is extracted from MFE, the main data matrix. So MFE2 is a data matrix for which normality of gene expression values is accepted, and we are going to apply a set of we are going to apply parity test on all the genes in this MA2 data matrix. And here is the set of commands. Again, more or less it remains the same, only that Wilcox test is now replaced by T-dot test. T-dot test is a parity test applied on the ith row of the data matrix of that we have separated out. We extract stat value, we extract PV values. When we extract P values, we obtain the Bonferroni adjusted P values and Sidak adjusted P values. And this set of commands gives us the number of genes which are detected at 1%, 5% according to P values before applying the adjustment and after applying this Bonferroni and Sidak adjustment. And this is how we can extract the data and on gene expression values. Okay, so for a 2-channel microarray data, first step is go for log transformation, lowest normalization, quantile normalization. You have normalized data, apply appropriate tools such as either parity test or Wilcoxon signed rank test to obtain differentially expressed genes. When we don't apply for multiplicity, the chances of false positives is very high, but when you apply multiplicity adjustment, the other extreme goes on, false negatives go up. So usually we select the top genes, top 50 genes, top 100 genes, and these are further investigated by biologists to see whether these are really differentially expressed genes or not. Thank you.